Hello again, everyone. We are still working on the 1968 Triumph TR250. I had mentioned a couple times that on Tim's hood that we did several years ago, this area on the driver's side tends to get bent and fatigued. His actually had cracked right there at the seam between the inner reinforcement. And I'd come up with this little repair that seemed to do a pretty good job. I cut out a nice little piece and drill me some plug weld holes. And you can see here I'm using a stainless steel straight edge that I wrap over the curve and compare it to the other side, which doesn't seem to be nearly as damaged. I think this comes from the fact that everyone opens the hood on the driver's side and then drops the hood, and it just fatigues that corner. Here I'm showing the area of the collision damage that was on the front of the hood. I've stretched and pulled and got it fitting in there reasonably well. A little on that later, as I use the second edition of the shrinking disc. And I've put the piece in, got it trimmed to fit, drilled the holes, used some weld through primer on it. Got to hit it with a hammer. I can't do anything unless I hit it with a hammer. And welding it in. I'm doing the plugs. Get it all nice. Trying to keep the heat to a minimum and not get any more weld than what I need to, because if it's too much I gotta grind it back out. Got it all welded in. Rough ground some of it out. Here I've dug out the little Dremel with a really small cone-shaped wheel on it and smoothing out the areas in the end. And as always, I use an assortment of tools. Here I'm using what is actually a cutoff wheel, but I'm using it as a vertical grinding and grinding the sides with a Roll-Lock 50 grit Roll-Lock disc, and actually got down to where I was actually using a file to kind of smooth the edges off, do away with any burrs. I've shown this tool before. This is my little spot sandblaster, but here's an extra attachment. It's got a 45-degree cut on it. It lets me get down into the angles here and clean up those welds without blasting sand all over the entire shop. And this is the finished product. I've got the plug welds ground down. I tried to keep the shape to where they looked quite a bit like a normal spot weld. Got the inside smoothed off. I've welded the end of my reinforcement panel into the reinforcement at a point that I think that resists the bending. So all in all, I think this is a job well done. I revisited my shrinking disc that I tried earlier on the deck lid, and I put it on a different grinder, got it to fit up a little better, and it really did a spectacular job. This area here in the center was hit dead in the middle on a previous collision. It was all puckered up, had stretched metal in there. It could have made a golf ball, I think, out of all the extra metal. And with doing some diligent shrinking, I almost got it down to where it could be metal finished. There's areas there that also need to be done. There's some areas there that will need some attention that I think were caused by the fact that the inner structure was where it was glued down, put a lot of low spots there. You can see where the primer's in them. I'll be addressing those next. But the shrinking disc, I think, is a good tool. It did surprisingly well. Brought the metal up and didn't remove any material like a grinding disc would. And I got the shape across the front here that just looks really, really nice. So this part of the project is done well, and we will continue on. I'm sure that the hood will have a skim coat of filler from end to end almost, just to make sure that it looks as good as the rest of the car. Here you see the areas that have the gray primer in the area with that brace that goes across. These areas will need blocked down. Hopefully with the shrinking disc and a little bit of massaging, may just need some high build primer. So once again, thanks for watching, and this thing is progressing along quite nicely. We will catch you on the next one. Thank you.